Welcome to the deep dive. So if you've ever, sat in a French class for years, passed every single test, and then you land in Paris and realize you can't even order a coffee, then you are definitely in the right place.
Yeah, that feeling is universal.
Today we're doing a deep dive into this amazing language acquisition guide. It really tackles that exact frustration. Our whole mission here is to figure out why that traditional way of learning fails almost everyone.
And how to switch to something that actually works.
Exactly. Something that uses your brain's own natural ability to get you to, well, real fluency, the kind you can actually use in the real world.
Right. And this isn't about studying harder. It's about learning in a way that's smarter and more natural. We're looking at insights from people who went down that painful textbook road, only to find out the real shortcut is all about enjoyment and understanding, not just memorizing lists.
I love that.
Yeah, and we love bringing these ideas to you. So, before we dive into the main topic, please just take a moment to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like this video, and leave a comment to support the channel. Your engagement truly helps.
It really does.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's unpack that core struggle.
Mm-hmm.
The exhaustion. You study French or German for years, you do everything right, and then you're left asking these awful questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why can't I remember a simple word when I'm under pressure? Or why does this all feel so unnatural?
Or the big one, why do I just freeze when someone speaks at a normal speed?
Yes, that one.
The problem, and it's a huge one, is that schools treat language like it's a math problem.
Right, like a science class.
Exactly. They give you these lists of rules, vocab charts, things to memorize for a test. You spend years learning about the language, but you never, ever learn how to actually use it to connect with someone.
It's like reading a book on how to swim, but never getting in the water.
That's a perfect analogy.
And the guide gives us that real-world story.
Mm-hmm.
This person who studied French for 3 years, German for 2, a good student, did all the homework, used the textbook.
And got nothing. Zero practical ability to show for it.
So frustrating.
And this is so important. For anyone listening, that is not your fault.
Say that again.
It is not your fault. It is the method. The system is designed to help you pass a written test, which uses short-term memory. And that memory gets wiped the second you're in a real conversation.
But then, the guy talks about this huge shift.
Mm-hmm.
The same person, at age 12, starts learning Korean.
Right, and everything changes.
The method is completely different. No classroom, no textbook, no pressure, no tests. It was all driven by pure enjoyment, the music, the culture.
And look at the results. Just 2.5 years later, they're fluent in Korean. Fluent enough to live and work in South Korea comfortably.
And then they did the same thing with Chinese.
The contrast couldn't be clearer. Years of painful study with zero results versus a few years of enjoyable learning leading to actual fluency. The person is the same. The process is what changed.
Okay, but here's the pushback I always hear. Learning like a baby sounds nice, but we're adults. Our brains are structured. We need rules, don't we? We can't just watch cartoons all day and hope it sinks in.
That is a fantastic point, and the guide is really clear about this. Adults do benefit from a little bit of structure right at the start. We'll get to that. But the core engine of learning, that's the same. We learn by seeing patterns and figuring out meaning from context.
Not by memorizing the rules first.
Exactly. The old way forces rules on you before you've even heard the language enough to see those patterns for yourself. It's completely backwards.
Which is why forcing yourself to memorize, 80 new Spanish words from a list is so painful and just doesn't work.
It creates stress. And your brain, when it feels bored or stressed, it's essentially telling you, this information is useless for my survival, I'm throwing it out. It's a defense mechanism.
So, if that's the wrong way, what is the real secret?
The secret is something called language acquisition through comprehensible input. That's the technical term. But the idea is simple.
Break it down for us.
You learn a language naturally when you listen to or read things where you already understand about, say, 70 to 80% of it.
Okay, so not everything, but most of it.
Right. And that little 20 or 30% that you don't know, that's the magic gap.
Yeah.
Your brain automatically works to figure it out from context. It builds the grammar rules for you inside your head without you even realizing it.
So it's not about study, it's about exposure.
Tons and tons of exposure, but what powers that? What makes you want to get all that exposure?
Motivation.
Motivation. The guide is so clear on this. It matters more than your memory, more than how smart you are. The reason that person learned Korean was because they loved the music, the movies, the humor. That's a powerful internal drive.
So if you're struggling, the first question isn't, am I studying enough? It's,
Am I enjoying this? If it feels like a chore, you are fighting your own brain.
So what can people stop doing, like right now?
You can stop the long hours of memorizing lists. You can stop worrying about complex grammar at the beginning. You can throw away the flashcards if you hate them. You don't even need a teacher in the traditional sense.
What do you need instead?
You need something that motivates you, a tiny bit of basic knowledge to get started, and then just tons of interesting content that you actually want to listen to.
Hmm.
Okay, let's get practical. Let's talk about the actual steps. The biggest fear is always, where do I start this weird new process?
Right. The blank page is terrifying.
So the guide says you start by building what it calls a small but strong foundation. Just enough knowledge so your brain can start spotting those patterns we talked about.
We're talking absolute basics for the first few days, right?
Yeah.
The real essentials.
The bare minimum, simple greetings, your name, where you're from, the most common verbs like to be, to have, to go, to want.
And a few simple nouns, numbers 1 to 20. That's it.
That's it. And your best tool for this is YouTube. Seriously, just search for things like basic Korean for beginners or simple French phrases. You want slow, clear, repetitive videos.
And you mentioned something earlier I want to circle back to, pronunciation. You said to focus on it early.
Yes, but not to sound perfect. It's for your listening. If your brain can't recognize a sound, you'll never understand it when you hear it spoken quickly by a native.
So it's a listening skill first and a speaking skill second.
You've got it. You're training your ear by trying to make the sounds yourself. You're getting familiar with the music of the language, the rhythm, the tone. When you hear it later, your brain goes, oh, I know that sound.
Which brings us back to the biggest trap for beginners. Grammar.
The grammar trap, yes. Please do not worry about past tense, future tense, or weird case endings in your first few weeks.
Just noise at that point.
It's worse than noise. It's a roadblock. It causes confusion and frustration. Your only focus should be on listening and just absorbing the general flow of sentences. The rules will make sense later, naturally, after you've heard a pattern 1,000 times.
So for that first week, the goal isn't fluency. It's not even accuracy.
The goal is comfort, making the language feel familiar and safe for your brain.
So what does a daily routine look like?
Super light, maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day. Watch a simple beginner video, repeat some words out loud, listen to a kid's song, and practice saying, hello, how are you, to yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Simple, easy, no pressure.
Okay, so you've built that little foundation. Maybe it's been a week, maybe 2. Now you switch gears, right? You move from lessons into full-on acquisition mode.
This is the fun part. You graduate from lessons to comprehensible input, real content, short YouTube vlogs, podcasts made for learners, even children's shows.
And this is where that 70-80% rule is so important, especially if you're aiming for that B1 or B2 intermediate level.
It's a constant balancing act. If you understand 95%, you're not learning, you're just reviewing. It's too easy.
But if you only understand 40%, you're just lost and frustrated.
You're drowning. You have to find that sweet spot, that little zone of challenge where your brain has to work just a little to fill in the gaps. That's where growth happens.
And how do you get the most out of that listening time? Is just having it on in the background enough?
Not really. Passive listening is okay, but active listening is where the magic is. The guide has this great 3-step method.
Okay, let's hear it.
Step 1, listen to a short clip all the way through. No pausing, just get the main idea, the gist of it.
Step 2.
Listen again, but this time you pause. When you hear a word you don't know, you guess its meaning from the context.
And step 3.
Listen a final time, all the way through, and see how much more you understand. That repetition drills it into your long-term memory.
That makes so much sense. Okay, listening is one thing, but the biggest fear for everyone is speaking. The hesitation, the terror of making a mistake.
That terror comes from 2 places. Fear of being judged and trying to translate everything perfectly in your head before you speak.
Which is impossible.
It's impossible. So you have to redefine the goal. The goal is not perfection. It is communication. You have to start using the speaking muscle, even if you feel totally unready.
Do you need to find a language partner right away?
Absolutely not. In fact, it's better to start alone. No pressure. Talk to yourself. Describe what you're doing. I am making tea. I am walking to the kitchen. It sounds silly, but it works.
What else?
Practice in a mirror. Record voice notes on your phone. Just you, talking for 1 minute. And the biggest one.
Thinking in the language.
Thinking in the language. This is transformative. It moves the language from being this external thing you're studying to part of your internal thought process. Start small. Think yes, no, what time in the language.
And then build up from there.
Yeah, then trying to plan your day in your head or think about your shopping list. It bypasses that translation step entirely.
And you can create this immersion bubble anywhere. You don't have to move to another country.
Not at all. Change your phone language. Follow social media accounts in that language. Put sticky notes on things in your room. Write your to-do list in the language. It's about small, consistent touches all day long.
So finally, what about mistakes? We're so afraid of them.
You have to reframe mistakes. They aren't failures, they're just data. They show you where you need more input. Confidence comes from familiarity, from using the language a lot, not from being perfect.
Yeah.
And remember, 10 minutes every single day is infinitely better than a 5-hour panic session once a week. So to bring this all together, it's about trusting that natural process, the one that worked for Korean and Chinese.
And letting go of the old school method that failed with French and German.
Exactly. Focus on listening. Find comprehensible input that you actually find interesting, and then just use the language in tiny, manageable ways every single day.
And here's a final thought for you to take away from all this. Every new word you learn, every sentence you figure out, it's like a small key. A key that opens up a new part of the world, a new way of thinking, new friends, new opportunities. Language isn't just a subject. It's a skill that connects you to other people. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going.
Well said.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like, and leave a comment to support the channel.